All right, here we are. Time to take a look at the stories in the papers making the rounds across Nigeria. This is freshly pressed on a Wednesday morning here on Smooth 98.1. This is your love music, love live station, Ayokunmi right here with you. 31 minutes past 7 a.m. on a Wednesday. Weather, I'm not entirely sure how it's going to pan out, but it's extremely humid out there. And early this morning, there was a little sprinkling of showers, but that was very brief. Hopefully, it'll be a clear day and we can all go out and enjoy that. It's going to be an interesting morning. The stories are ready, analysts are on the ground, and the only thing to add to this soup is your contributions, which make everything a whole lot richer. So join us on YouTube, join us on WhatsApp as well, and let's make it Wednesday to remember. The WhatsApp number is 0911 999 0981 0911 9990981. That is the WhatsApp number for the messages. Keep them concise, punctuation, very important. Construct them in a way that I can read them very easily. I know that sometimes we try to rush through to send the messages, but just, take a breath. Just take a breath and take it slowly. It makes it easy at the end of the day. Leave your comments on YouTube as well. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. All right, it's a full house talking about the analyst in the building. Three great gentlemen joining me this morning. Devoe is here, Lakunle as well, and of course, Mr. C. Lakunle, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Devoe. And good morning to our special guests, the unionists, and a new tag that I'm afraid to mention. Good morning to everybody who's listening to us this morning. It's a good day and some pleasant news, at least from my perspective today.
All righty. Devoe, good morning to you.
Morning world, morning Lagos. Uh Smooth, AY, Lakunle, the unionist in the room. A coup, compromise of government to plenty. A coup, compromise of government to plenty.
Olofao.
Mr. C, good morning to you.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning, Ninja Squad. Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, virtual listeners.
Alrighty, let's jump right into the nitty-gritty of the conversation this morning. Devoe, we're starting in the vanguard talking about the nomination of the immediate past Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, by the President as the new Minister of Defense. In a letter to the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, President Tinubu conveyed General Musa's nomination as the successor to Mohammed Badaru Abubakar, who resigned on Monday. Of course, if for those who don't remember, Musa served as Chief of Defense Staff from 2023 until October of 2025. So, Devoe, some moves being made here. Now, the big question that everybody's asking is this going to make a change in our security situation? And could this be one of the answers to all the questions?
Well, I would have loved to say that there's some alubarika available with this move. And in English, that just means fortune, blessing. But you see, I think Nigerians by now should be aware of what is going on and the government and the country that they live in. We've been suffering all manner of insecurity left, right, and center. We've lost count on the kidnaps, abductions, and attacks that have been taking place by terrorists. Sometimes they're called bandits, okay, or unknown gunmen, which our government, through the security forces, has been unable to put a handle on, to the extent that we almost got used to it until the threat from the American President Trump kind of woke the government up to do something. But even in doing something, it seemed as if that was a license to kill, a license for them to throw a field party, a field day on this country. Like you saw me last week, I was in the field. I'm still in the jungle. And I even passed by the area where the last kidnap took place in an attacks that took place on a bus just beside the Dangote refinery, cement refinery in Obajana. That was last week Wednesday. I passed by there on Sunday again. There was no even sight of police or extra enhanced security. So am I surprised that I also heard that an abduction took place in a church in Ejiba, which is just 1 hour from Eruku? I mean, it's just been a field day. And the point here is, most times we wonder, why are we not able to get a hold of this insecurity, despite all the measures being taken by the police, NCDC, what do you call it, the military. Then eventually, in a bid to act, the president calls not a state of emergency, but an emergency on security, which we still don't know what that means because that's not captured in law. But we're looking forward to the extraordinary measures that are going to be taken, of which this article speaks to, whereby the last or the former just exited defense minister Badaru, who was the former governor of Jigawa, threw in his resignation. Politically, many of us know that Nigerians do not, especially Nigerian politicians, they don't resign willingly. Most times someone was kicked out or someone was traded. And just like the APC chairman who claimed he was ill and then was replaced with Yeltada and then was given a position just a week after, you can see that he wasn't really ill. Likewise, I'm not going to be surprised if Badaru is given a position next week. But the point is, the coming of the last CDS, that's the former chief of defense, General Christopher Musa, to me is not so much of good news. It might look good in terms of optics, in terms of the fact that he's Christian, in terms of the fact that he is senior to even the military, the current military executive brigade. But the point is, it's not how good General Christopher Musa was. He's from Kaduna State. It's not about how good he is. It's about a system that is compromised. This is the point. Let's stop rejoicing and making it look like we're having a party. We have a country to run. We have a government that should be putting things in place. You know, the funny part is this. And while he was in the military, he had a professional job, okay? He was trained by the Nigerian army across almost 25 to 30 years. They have a job to do. But you see, the cancer, the virus of corruption, which has enabled which our politicians at the federal level, at the state level, and at the local government level have used to water down all our ministries, departments, and agencies is unbelievable. You know, one of the reasons why most times on the media, the social media, everybody's always complaining and lambasting the Tinubu organization or the Tinubu administration, it's because the government is not working. In as much as people hate Wike or they don't like his ways, you have to give it to him. The man is working. If you've been to Abuja, even if you've not been to Abuja, on the news, you will hear all the steps of governance that are taking place. Maybe he might need to extend his passion for building roads to building schools, building hospitals, building entertainment centers and sports units. Yes, but the man is working. Can we say the same for the other 36 governors? Apart from Abia State, that even most of us who don't even live there know what is happening. What can we say about Lagos State given its revenue? What can we say about the AY? Are you aware that there's a Ministry of Water? Are you aware that even though Musa is coming into the Ministry of Defense, you still have the police? Constitutionally, he's not the one responsible for internal policing affairs. There's also a Ministry of Policing. We've even forgotten that there's a Minister of Police Affairs. What kind of country are we running that only the president and the presidency? Let me tell you something. Are you aware that when issues of national security come up, it's the Minister of Defense that should be speaking, if not the president? What you have heard, what you have seen across, and it started with the Goodluck Jonathan administration, when in a bid out of what do you call it, they didn't trust the then minister. They felt it was an ethnic thing that was taking place. So they, in quotes, empowered the National Security Advisor of blessed memory, General Azazi, who was at that point attempting to even disclose who Boko Haram was. I still remember. And if we connect the dots, we know why he was killed. But the point is, after the Goodluck Jonathan administration, every president kept on empowering his National Security Advisor because of the amount of funds that were involved. Even to show you to that extent, Buhari had an issue with Dalsuki because of how much money that was misspent, and maybe it was an old agro that he was trying to get out. But the point was, we rearranged how the national architecture works, whereby the National Security Advisor, in today, Ribadu, is the one coordinating the national security architecture instead of the Ministry of Defense, who are empowered. You've had
All
two
right.
past governors, Badre and followed by Matawale, who was still there, who literally have contributed zero. So it's not about personalities. We must be careful that we hold our government accountable. We make them do their jobs, because there's no point appointing all these people, and at the
All
end
right,
of the
Devoe.
day, they're not able to deliver simply because politicians are playing politics with the lives of Nigerian citizens. I rest my case.
A very important point made there by Devoe. It's one thing to put the right people in place, but if the system is rigged against them, that in itself could be a problem. So, I mean, a lot of people have hailed the appointment of Christopher Musa as the Minister of Defense, but is he going to have the environment and the tools necessary to do the job that has to be done? That definitely remains to be seen. This is a message from Ajay Urulilua in Magodo Jerry Sherry, who says, "Good morning to you, Ayokunmi, and the fine gentlemen in the house. The appointment of General Christopher Musa as the new Minister of Defense is a good one, but that Minister of State for Defense, Matawale, and NSA Ribadu must still be fired for their gross incompetence." Well, there's still shakeups happening. Will they be fired? Now, that's a question I can't answer at this point in time. Lakunle, let's talk about what's going on in the world of education. And ASU, once again, are in the news. The Vanguard is where we're taking this story from. It says that the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has softened its stance in the prolonged wage dispute with the federal government, agreeing to a 40% salary increase, a development that may finally close months of drawn-out negotiations and avert fresh industrial action across public universities. Now, they had earlier rejected a 35% pay rise, maintaining that the offer fell short of their expectations. Well, they've agreed on 40%. Agreement is agreement, as they say. On one hand, Lakunle, should I say temper the situations where ASU is concerned in terms of strikes today, strikes tomorrow? Do we expect to see a level of sanity anytime soon? Bearing in mind that they've come to this agreement right now.
Excuse me. So, first off, like what I said, I had some pleasant news. This is probably my pleasant news of the day, that we're having something pleasant to report about the two parties involved, ASU and government. Now, what this report did not say for me is, one, whether this new agreement, or rather, is complementary to the 2009, or it specifically and totally overrides the 2009 one. Now, on a lighter note, when you get 40% in the university score system, it gets you an E, a pass. You are not receiving that course, right? So maybe the federal government may just have reached the pass mark in terms of salary expectations. But for me, what is even much more compelling in this agreement as reported are items such as the process for the selection of VCs, which in recent times you agree with me that a trend that is very unpalatable has been ongoing, that if you are not an indigene of the host community of the university, your chances of being elected VC is almost zero, because the host community people go to pressure and lobby governments that it's our son that must be VC. You know, that trend had gone on for a long time now. So it had somehow reduced the office to all you need to be an indigene, and not necessarily about how qualified, eminently qualified you are. And the university system may have suffered somehow from that. Then it also says that the governing council and the Senate would be the ones in the laws and whatever, and there will be no external rules or opinions in forms of what do they call that in the government rights? Circulars to override the extant laws setting up the governing of question of university. They also get landed property protection, which means that, for example, the one that Minister Wike did in Abuja and took 7,000 square kilometers of University of Abuja land away from them. On a lighter note again, I also thought that they should also have included a ban or a suspension on this another trend that has recently taken over our psyche in Nigeria, renaming everything after human beings. So I went to University of Abuja, and I was calling University of Abuja, and I got there. I saw Yakubu Gowon University on the door, and I'm like, "Excuse me, when did this happen?" And you go all over the place. You have people naming universities over after individuals, which I think it is very, very. It's not something we should even be thinking of. I think that they should have also have included that in it. Now, it also then goes back again. I'm just trying to highlight the major points of this new agreement, right? They also have the issue of universities having the opportunity to import direct educational materials, and then we get duty waivers on those things. Let's hope and pray that they will not abuse it, right? And then this agreement will be reviewed on a 3-year cycle. So I hope the government will keep to this part, because this is largely government. And also, again, also said that pre-degree programs, which I've never understood what it meant, even for science-based courses, right, will now be limited to science-based courses. Whatever pre-degree means, I can never understand it. That's personal to me anyway. And then said that research will now be funded through the National Research Council. Now it's time to pay attention to the budget of National Research Council and make that council accountable for the monies it gets and where the money goes to. And I hope we can have a portal where anybody can go to and say, okay, I'm interested in this research. Is it going on? Who is doing it?
Okay.
What are the results and things like that? So when you put all of these things together, like I've always said, that I don't believe in strikes, right? Strikes doesn't solve any problem. And I think that the conversations that they've had about whatever that needs to be done, these highlights that I have reeled out somehow has given some level of comfort. The money in terms of salary,
Which comfort?
but we're hearing that something reasonable, something different from the usual arguments is now being talked about now. And that's where I think we should focus, so that next time, and I was at this table also when I said that I think that the current minister is somehow different from previous ministers we've had. And now that we also have a central negotiating committee for all tertiary institutions, that I said I hope that things will move faster, and I think that is happening now. So when we put all of this together, I think that we're headed somewhere in the right direction, albeit slowly.
Ewa, can I add one line?
Very quickly, Devoe.
You see, we didn't come to this point of dilapidated, badly run tertiary educational institutions because of kitchen table issues. Many of the issues table that Lakunle has spoken on, all kitchen table issues. A good administrator would have sorted this out in 1 month. However, at the core of the destruction of our tertiary institutions is funding, which is why our lecturers are being made to look like hungry beggars, trying to beg between 35% and collecting 40%. If you're earning 400,000, they're only going to add 150 to your salary. That's not going to make a difference. But the point is, this whole what was supposed to be a shutdown or industrial action was not about just lecturers. It was about the tertiary educational system. If they do not get financial autonomy to inject fresh funds into the university system, all these kitchen table issues are not going to make that difference that we're looking for. It's unfortunate. And I know for me, when lecturers and professors are hungry, like any other hungry Nigerian, you can't negotiate properly. You can't see far into the future. What is 40%? Eh?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, for whatever reason, this agreement, was reached. What everybody wants to now see is how much of a difference this is going to make, because
it's not making any difference.
Nigerians
it's like when there was minimum wage, you add 10,000 naira and tell them live with 40K.
Devoe, I don't agree with you on to that point that we are being micro with this conversation. So from 0 to 40, I think it's the start. Don't forget, minimum wage has also shifted between then and now. So it's not necessarily that it is from 500K you are getting 400,000 additional. You are getting how much is that?
150K.
You are getting 50K. No, that's 200,000 additional or something. So it's more about that. There's progression.
Let's wrap up on this one.
Okay, so very quickly, let me
tell you that we keep that conversation going. So that's why we need to put the pressure now to keep the conversation going, so that we catch up sometime in the future. It's not going to happen in one day. No university 1 trillion naira from the government today. but they can get 1 trillion naira over the next 5 years.
All right, Lakunle. Mr. C, you had a word to chip in here.
Very quickly, I'm inclined to agree with Devoe and not Lakunle, because in real terms, what is the value of this 40%
We can't hear
increase?
Steve.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So I'm inclined to agree with Devoe rather than Lakunle. What is the real term value of this proposed 40% increase given inflation costs? Because their salaries 10 or 15 years ago were the equivalent of 3,000 US dollars. Today, I understand they're about 400 US dollars. So this 40% increase, what exactly is this supposed to achieve? So we must be looking at the money in terms of real value and not nominal value.
Real value, not nominal value. There will be different perspectives on this particular matter. Okay. At the end of the day, what we want is a system that works for everyone. That is where we need to head to. All right, Devoe, let's step into the Vanguard real quick here and get through this particular story where it says that the federal government has launched a $100 million equity investment scheme aimed at boosting the capacity of Nigerian companies operating in the oil and gas sector. Now, this initiative was unveiled on Tuesday at the 2025 Practical Nigerian Content Forum in Yenagoa, Bayelsa State by the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, Engineer Felix Ogbe. Devoe, what is this all about?
Basically, if you know our Nigerian oil and gas industry like I do, you will know that the federal government, administration to administration, has made many attempts to try and boost the local content or local capacity. Okay. I remember, and I must say, when I was in NNPC about 22 years ago, we had a meeting in NAPIMS, which is the arm of the NNPC that manages the investment on behalf of the federal government. And it was clear from the figures and the analysis that 80% of the money generated from oil and gas, okay, goes to Houston and a few of the other oil major countries because first of all, the IOCs are foreign companies, okay? The NNPC on its exploration and production capacity hasn't done too well. Now, the dream was that instead of paying all these foreign companies money, if we can have local capacity. So what happened was that's when the local content law was established that foreign companies coming to do oil and gas business in Nigeria in any of the levels, either upstream or downstream, must have a local partner. Now, the expectation was that across 5 to 10 years, that local partner must have, transferred skills, collected skills, learned how to do it by themselves. But what we see today, not too many of those local parties have been able to get to the level of the foreign companies in terms of their technical capacity, in terms of their commercial capacity. On top of that, there's been a lot, like I said, compromised institutions, whereby oil and gas is one of the most corrupt sectors in the world, whereby ECPA is exchanged for Guguru, and at the end of the day, contracts end up with people who have no capacity. So in this instance, the Nigerian Content Development Monitoring Board is more or less raising like capital to be able to assist because, for example, AY, let's say you get a contract in Shell and it's to drill, supply barites to the tune of $9 million, okay? And you only have $1 million in your account. How are you going to deliver? And sometimes, banks are very afraid to support startups or local entities in this business. It's a good thing, but I don't think it's going to work. It's only going to end up being used for political patronage. As you can see, the NDDC, the Niger Delta Ministry, are same engines, opportunities and organs created by governments to support a certain sector. But what have they done to the Niger Delta Ministry? What have they done to the NDDC? They've turned it into minister off your mic. So this $100 million, AY, can we say in this point, in anticipation, can you please off your mic?
I'll keep my own mic on in the studio here. No doubt about that one. Thank you for breaking that story down for us, Devoe. I'll come back to you in a moment. So we can quickly talk about this very interesting development here. But Barrister Dano Kuda on WhatsApp says, good morning, crew. I'm not excited about the appointment of General Musa as defense minister. Security challenges tripled under his watch as CDS. So what magic is he going to do is he going to bring as Minister of Defense? All right, thank you for the message. All right, Lakunle, let us talk about this in The Guardian, where the Senate on Tuesday commenced the second reading of a bill proposing a single toll-free emergency number for Nigeria. Now, this legislation, titled A Bill for an Act to Establish the National Emergency Toll Service, seeks to replace the current array of state and service-specific helplines with a unified three-digit number. Isn't this something that should have happened a long, long time ago to bring some uniformity?
Yes, while I agree with you that it's something that should have happened a long time ago, but you see, for me, I'm thinking outside of the constraint of this report and what it is set to achieve. One, because it is part of the problem we have in Nigeria, centralizing everything. Emergencies are local, just like politics is local, just like your neighbors are local to you and all that, right? I do not see a reason why we need a national emergency number, particularly for where we are today. When you look at it in terms of centralization of everything, the police, fire service, all of that. So every state has its own fire service, for example. Every state has its own hospital management board. So in that instance, how is it supposed to work? Let's even leave the politics of it behind, right? Or the workability of it. I do not agree that this should be a centralized issue. The technology for making this happen is almost off the shelf. There's no big deal about it. We should not be making a federal law of this kind of thing. Every state can do their own. And then because of next door neighborliness for kind of, you can then integrate your systems into each other. It is not a big deal. Why are we wasting federal legislative
executive time
talking about things as mundane as this? In my little estate, I can create an emergency number for my estate where I live here. All I need to do is go and talk to one of the telcos that this is what I want to do, in 1 week.
CUG.
I don't need a CUG. It's just a single number that everybody can call. Anybody can call. So the technology is there. It's almost off the shelf. Why are we centralizing it? For what purpose? What are we trying to achieve by centralizing it? I think
Chop for the boys.
I think that we should just stop wasting our time about things like this. Yes, you may think that, okay, because the opportunity is there to do it at central level. What's the point?
Okay.
Our unionists should have a point of view on this. This is what they like.
So, with all due respect to the revolutionaries who just spoke, there must be a reason why they're proposing this, right? And we see that in certain serious countries, they've adopted this. What I would rather advocate is, as they are contemplating passing this bill, they should also focus on the response centers, make sure they are properly manned by people who have been properly trained, and that the various services that should be connected to these response centers are duly connected. It's not enough to pass the acts. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt on this one, but let's ensure that they do the proper thing.
Sorry, AY, one line. I'm not going to give them the benefit of doubt because we have enough data and history to analyze this. First of all, you don't have the national security architecture to support this service, okay? Lagos State that has even tried is challenged. I remember when hoodlums came to attack me on Idumagbo, or where was that? Around Apapa, because they were all hungry looking for money, okay? And I called the Lagos State emergency line, and they were wasting time in trying to ask me where was I. They were not even serious. They were cracking jokes behind the scene. And at the end of the day, they were just like, you're wasting our time. That shows you the reality. If citizens are actually in trouble, what would happen? And the point is, that is Lagos State. So Lagos has even a security trust fund and some architecture to support it.
Those ones are even operational issues that are
right.
human. said.
Yes, but I'm saying
the
this
real
is the
thing,
fallout. Apart from the fact that it's money for the boys, okay, just like they did the national what's this thing, security CCTV project that up till date we don't know what happened to the 450 billion that was earmarked into that project. That's what they'll do to this one. So it needs to be stepped down until they're able to build a proper security architecture, starting with state policing. Once you have extra manpower, especially at the state level, then we can begin to say, okay, what is really going on and how can we get a rein in on the criminality and the terrorism that is having a field day in Nigeria.
All right, Devoe. Well, let me just get your thoughts in on this one. I mean, I'm of the agreement that I don't see why this has to go through the Senate and all that. But I will say that having a number that is unified across board to me makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, I live in Lagos and I know okay, the number for emergencies is XYZ. I go to Jigawa State or whatever, I know it's the same number if I'm in trouble, as opposed to a different number across the board. So does that mean that going from one place to another, you need to learn the number for that place and so on and so forth? I mean, that's just the way I see it. But hey, let's see how this one actually pans out. But having
Last
to
point, AY. So if you're in Jigawa and you call for help when you're being attacked, and they tell you that the nearest police station is 3 hours away, I hope you'll be happy with that. I rest my case.
two different things, Devoe. We disagree to agree at the end of the day.
The operational part of it is different from the legal whatever we are talking about now.
All right, let me take your messages real quick this morning. This is from Pedro, who says, good morning, gentlemen. Emergencies number to call on non-existent services, service units that lack the funding and capacity to respond. Why put the cart before the horse? Sort the basics first. And this nice to have will be a no-brainer.
One Odeku for that contributor.
Amadi Nicholas in Ibao just says, good morning, Smooth. Good as the fund for the NCDMB may appear, why is nothing being done about the textile industry? If not for anything, this will generate high volume of employment.
Power.
Just wonder. Ayo Infestac says, Lakunle just took the words from my mouth. Why legislate emergency numbers? I agree with it being centralized, though. I remember my. I'm sure you meant to type something as you wrote GD here. When I called during COVID, telling me to WhatsApp him because he was in a meeting. Emergency number, indeed. Okay. Okay. This is from Ibukun, who says, they have to sort out funding and financial autonomy for the universities. Research should not be centralized. Cambridge contributes 4 times the contribution of the Premier League to the English economy. Most of that money is grants from research. Lecturers should behave better to cultivate a strong alumni instead of traumatizing students. And says, I disagree with Lakunle on the emergency number. It should be uniform. So if I'm from Lagos and have an emergency in Kano, I know the number. It's 999 in the UK and 911 in the US. This is Leko in Lagos, who says, Nigeria, what a price we have paid for incompetence, lack of capacity, and low-grade mind people in power. How the mighty have fallen. We are the world's laughing stock in the Committee of Nations. Our history, culture, pedigree destroyed. It's a shame that Nigeria is now a gangster paradise, courtesy of the president. This is what you get when you get into power through the.
Can I just quickly respond to that research thing? We're looking at the Nigerian public universities as different universities because they have different vice chancellors. But don't forget, all of them have one employer, and that's the federal government of Nigeria. The federal government owns all of them. So if it says that I have a department called National Research Council to handle research university, it's not central in the absolute sense of the word central. One employer having a department to handle research in its institutions. So that's the perspective which I'm looking at it from. And
all right, Lakunle. All right.
Focus on National Research Council to ensure that the budget they put out there is used in the universities as said they've used. So it's now the Research Council's job to look in the private sector for money to help universities do what they are doing.
All right. Thank you for that, Lakunle. Fabian Inekwe says, good morning, sirs. I hope the new minister will advise the president accordingly. Those implicated in the abductions and terrorism should be named and arrested. On another note, a state of emergency should be declared on the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway. What is going on out there? People in that area, I'm I'm with you all the way because it's difficult. It's been difficult the last few weeks. Tony Nikeja says, good morning, Ayo. Look, I think that the biggest lesson to learn in this whole leadership cluelessness in Nigeria is don't bother coming forward if you lack leadership skills. The entire gamble from 2015 to 2025 points to the fact that wrong people are on the job. After snatching, grabbing, and running away with the people's mandates, what next? A minister who can differentiate between the thickness of forestry branches and the force of bombs is left to destroy other people's lives for many years. Badr will soon be appointed as the vice ambassador of Renewed Hope. All right, that's Tony in Ikeja. Alrighty, time to wrap it all up. Thank you all so much for the messages and contributions. You are the real MVPs. Thank you so very much to the big men who joined me this morning, Lakunle, Devoe, and Mr. C. Lakunle, very, very quickly. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me this week. See you next week, Ayo. And
all right.
Don't call on my behalf, bros.
That one is a private matter. Devoe, you're muted. All right, seems like Devoe is a bit distracted. Mr. C.
Thank you, Ayo. Thank you, Devoe. Thank you, Lakunle. Thank you, Lagos. Have a nice day ahead.
All right, have a great Wednesday ahead. Looking forward to the locker room at 8:15. Sporting action is coming your way. Maybe games in Premier League and across sport. All that to talk about and so much more. My name is Ayokunmi. Take care. Stay